Polydorus, where are you, my friend? We're doing a what? What did you call it? A Carcast?
We're doing a Carcast today because I'm traveling the Midwest, was in Louisville over the weekend for a wedding, went down to Nashville to do some honky tonk and also meet with a couple of business clients. And I'm now on my way up to Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm going to see Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band for the 51st time. Paul, the first time I saw them was back in 1980 on the River Tour at the Los Angeles Sports Arena. And tomorrow night, it's going to be the arena in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow, you sound as passionate and committed to Springsteen as many of our friends out there who are listening are devoted to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it sounds like the D&D crowd came out in droves this weekend.
They really did. And the thing about this movie is the great reviews. And Mike, as we talked about with Sarah Whitten on our last episode, the movie, it's being marketed as it's great for everyone because it's a great action adventure, brilliant film, real crowd pleaser. And will it cross over? You know, that's one of the issues here. I think it's proven it will and it can. And as we talked about, you don't have to be a hitman to enjoy John Wick. You don't have to be a boxer to enjoy Creed 3. You don't have to be a superhero to enjoy Shazam. So I don't think you have to be a D&D fan to enjoy this movie.
Well, I think that the big issue on the movie was going to be, is it going to hold up over the weekend? Because as we know, the fanboy type of movies, and you could argue, as we spoke with Sarah last week, was would D&D fall into that fanboy category? And those movies tend to have a big Friday and a drop off on Saturday. And as we watch the Saturday numbers, the actual number, Friday to Saturday, not counting the $5.3 million from Thursday, was up 33% on Saturday. And that tells you right there, Paul, that it is indeed crossing over very much like Uncharted did last year.
I absolutely agree. And it's kind of interesting because we have Super Mario Brothers, the movie opening, and that's going to be a huge film, Mike. I think we both agree for the Wednesday through Sunday 5-day opening, we could be looking at over $100 million. And I went back and I looked at what are the top 5-day opening frames for films opening on a Wednesday, not films opening on a Tuesday or a Friday, but actually opening on a Wednesday. And 2009's Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, $200.1 million domestically for that opening 5 days. There's only been a few films, actually, I've just counted them, 13 films that open on Wednesday have earned over $100 million in that 5-day frame. Of course, we're heading into Easter Sunday, and so I think this is going to be a great performance. But for D&D, Mike, what do you think that, is it about the second weekend, or is it more about the third weekend for D&D?
You know, I mean, the numbers on D&D have been very solid, and they ended up doing, I think they reported just over $37 million for the weekend, which pre-release numbers had that film doing about $30 million. So you're looking at a significant 20-25% increase over what the pre-release predictions had it. It got an A cinema score, which bodes well for it. Going into the Easter weekend where you do have a lot of schools that are out over the next few weeks, I'm not even sure, Paul, we need to look at this weekend or that weekend. I think this is one where you're going to look at the cumulative number at the end of the day and go, you know what, that did pretty well. And I think, you and I both spoke about the issue that it had initially being sandwiched between the juggernaut of John Wick and what's going to be a super juggernaut of Super Mario Brothers. But the marketplace is doing something we haven't seen in a long time, and that is it's supporting many films. This was the 7th weekend in a row where we had a film doing over $30 million as the top film for the weekend. Well, that's good. We know that's going to be 8 in a row this weekend. So, all signs point to a positive box office marketplace right now and supporting many different films at the same time. time.
I agree completely. I think it's really about that, not just momentum, but an enthusiasm by audiences who clearly want to go out to the movie theater, and that the marketplace can expand to accommodate the demand for all of these films. And while we didn't have a record-breaking March, because we've only had one March that earned over $1 billion in total, but we still had a great month that I think even more importantly than the box office bottom line for March was what this month meant to the industry. Starting off with Creed 3, of course, Scream 6, Shazam maybe didn't do as well as some had hoped, but obviously John Wick 4 overperforming in that opening weekend, still hanging in there, of course. And now we've got D&D, which is a crowd pleaser, and sometimes a happy crowd leads to more movie going down the road. Super Mario opens this week. Then we go into April. We are in April, but we go further into April with some great movies, Renfield, Evil Dead Rise. It's not just about Super Mario, but then we lead into, of course, the summer movie season with Guardians 3. I think there couldn't be a better blueprint for heading into the summer movie season and a better marketplace than what we're enjoying right now.
The other thing is you forgot to mention, along with Super Mario opening this week, is Air.
Air, that's right.
Depending on how that plays out, that could be another $20 million or so over the 5 days. So if you add in what Super Mario, what Air, what week 3 of John Wick will end up doing, week 2 of Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, Paul, you're looking at a very busy multiplex this weekend at your local movie theater.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. Let's talk about that a little bit, that it's not just about the $100 million openers or the $50 million openers, but the films that contribute. Every film counts. I mean, even Mafia Mama, which is opening on April 14. Great trailer. Really looking forward to that one. You've got another Coldplay live experience from Trafalgar in the month. Like we mentioned, Evil Dead Rise. Got that big George Foreman movie. And then Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. All these in April, and Super Mario obviously going to be a juggernaut. But look at that lineup of films. Not all of them have the high profile of the films that we had in March, but what a great lineup, and event cinema as well.
It's been really, really positive, I think, as you look at the buildup, and you and I have talked about it. There are a ton of movies coming out in April. I was just going over to lunch with some people, and you've got 3 or 4 movies going wide each week. Now, are those movies going to reach the plateaus that we've seen in March? Well, Super Mario Brothers are. After that, it may not be to the same level.
Sure.
But, Guardians of the Galaxy, those tickets went on sale yesterday, and it already looks like it's going to be the huge juggernaut kicking off the summer season first weekend of May.
Yeah, so we're on a great trajectory. I want to digress a little bit and talk again about your Springsteen addiction, which I love. Trafalgar also has a Metallica 72 Seasons premiere on April 13. So the whole rock and roll thing going strong in movie theaters. But I love that you said this will be your 51st Springsteen.
Yeah, I went back and added it up, and I've seen him everywhere. Obviously, LA numerous times. Saw him in Vegas. Saw him a couple of times in Jersey, including a Thunderstorm on the Rising Tour, which is absolutely fantastic.
But Mike, why would you want to see him in person? You could just buy a record and sit at home.
Paul, that's a very good segue, because it's the same reason you want to go to the movies. The experience being there is just so much different. And not that it's a bad experience listening to it at home, but it's a more interactive experience being there and seeing it in person. And looking again at all of the numbers from last weekend and looking at, who was coming, we should probably also talk about another faith-based movie that succeeded this week, and that was Angel Studios had their maiden voyage with His Only Son, which went out at $5 million as well. And I know there was a lot of crowdfunding that was done on that movie, and very interesting kind of new age release strategy that they're doing on that. But again, coming on the heels of Jesus Revolution, which by the way crossed the $50 million mark this weekend, showing just the diversity in the marketplace when you have movies again like Wick, like Dungeons and Dragons, like his only son.
Right. Well, don't you think that's what it's all about, Mike? It's about the diversity of content, and certainly to have his only son. Actually, I think that the final numbers came in higher than the estimates at 5.5 million for that film. You also had a Fathom Events, The Journey with Andrea Bocelli, the Jesus Revolution, as you mentioned, at number 11. There was a Met Opera. There was also an Indian film, Dasara, that opened to number 14. Talk about a great marketplace. I mean, yeah, you've got the superhero movies and the D&Ds and the John Wick movie, but you've also got, like you just mentioned, His Only Son, a faith-based movie, and in that top 12 also Jesus Revolution. Cocaine Bear is number 13. Very different, I would say, from the faith-based films. And then a lot of event cinema and Indian cinema. This is a great marketplace. To be a moviegoer right now is fantastic.
Well, and I do want to kind of jump it around again, but then, that's what you get when you get a Carcast. But going back, yeah, you don't want me reading my notes. I'm doing, on I-60.
The Carcast.
Yes, on I-65 here. What I was going to say, though, is week 2 of John Wick was really impressive.
This past weekend dropped 62%. I know that's slightly more than the drop on the last film, but I think that's just reflective of it's a longer movie, a lot of competition in this marketplace with D&D coming in, but still a great performance by Wick 4.
Absolutely. And the other thing to remember is a much larger gross on the opening weekend as well. And it should be noted that John Wick Chapter 3 second weekend was Memorial Day weekend 2019. There was an inflated Sunday and an inflated Friday.
That's right.
If you really want to look at it, it's a very strong performance for a fourth in a series.
Absolutely. And the movie's really, really good. Look, Mike, comes down to quality. You look at the superhero movies of late, I gotta say, and I'm not gonna pick on any specific film, but the superhero genre is suffering a little bit from a bit of a creative malaise. I think is being reflected in some of the lackluster numbers. But I think Guardians 3 brings this back, and every movie stands on its own. But I think moving forward, this is a genre that is key to the success of our industry, but need to get it back on track.
Everything runs in cycles, as we all know, Paul. And to your point, everything we're hearing on Guardians Volume 3 is that it is really a solid movie. I don't think you're going to have to look much further than the next 3 weeks for that.
Yep, there you go. Well, I think we'll leave it there, Mike. Thank you for joining us from the road on your way to see Springsteen, my friend. Enjoy that show, your 51st show. Next week, I'll see you from a static location, I think. You won't be in the car.
I'll be back at the Paper Airplane Worldwide Headquarters.
I love it. Love the Worldwide Headquarters. I can't wait to be invited over there.
You're invited anytime, Paul.
All right, Mike. Thank you for doing this. I'm Paul DeGarabedian, Senior Media Analyst for Comscore, and I'm with my brilliant co-host, Mike Polydor's Paper Airplane Media, and this is Ticket to Ride, and we'll see you at the movies. See you next week, Mike.
Take care, Paul.